It's day 33 of the war in Ukraine, the war refusing to end. Russia has continued attacking key Ukrainian cities using deadlier missiles now, and this under the phase 2 of invasion, as it is being called, which means villages near the capital city Kyiv are also in complete ruin. There has been relentless shelling for days now by the Russian troops. Let's take you city by city. In Kherson, the Russian forces have used smoke grenade to disperse people who are protesting, Ukrainian citizens who were protesting against Russian invasion. Images from Mariupol of death, destruction, despair. This while there are negotiators meeting for the 6th round of talks to broker a middle ground to end the war. The talks will be held in Turkey and are the second such talks hosted by Ankara. Now, meanwhile, remember, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused the West. He's saying that they lack courage. His country is fighting to stave off Russia's invasion, while the West is playing a ping-pong over how and who should deliver the fighter jets to Ukraine as it continues to fight the Russians. This comes as Ukraine alleged that Russia wants to divide Ukraine into two parts and then install a puppet government in the occupied area. Ukraine has also meanwhile said that the resistance will grow into a total guerrilla warfare. They will derail Russia's plan to successfully have any proxy government in the country.
Попереду і новий раунд переговорів, бо ми шукаємо миру, реально, без затягування. Як мені доповіли, є можливість і потреби для очної зустрічі вже на території Туреччини. Це непогано. Подивимось на результат. Наші пріоритети у переговорах відомі. Суверенітет, територіальна цілісність України не підлягають сумніву, дієві гарантії безпеки для нашої держави обов'язкові. Очевидна і наша мета – мир і якнайшвидше відновлення нормального життя в рідній нашій державі. І сьогодні той день, коли знову і знову переконуюсь, наскільки далеко ми від Російської Федерації. Уявіть, вони там в Москві переполошилися через моє інтерв'ю російським журналістам, тим із них, хто може дозволити собі говорити правду. Коли журналісти вже готувалися до публікації нашого інтерв'ю, ми говорили з ними сьогодні в день, російське цензурне відомство вийшло з погрозами. Так і написали, вимагають відмовитись від публікації розмови. Це було б смішно, якби не було б так трагічно. Знищили свободу слова в своїй державі, намагаються зруйнувати сусідню державу, зображають себе глобальним гравцем, а самі при цьому бояться відносно короткої розмови з кількома журналістами. Що ж, якщо така реакція, значить ми все правильно робимо, значить вони нервують.
Now, the northern areas of the capital Kyiv city have been devastated by the Russian attacks, and that's still ongoing, which means many residents have fled ever since the invasion began. But there is a part that is also starting to return. More details on how the Kyiv region actually looks like right now in Ukraine, 33 days on since the invasion started. As the Russian forces push further into the center of the port city of Mariupol, half of the population appears to have already left. The port city has been laid to waste by the Russian heavy weaponry, where the whole neighborhood now cannot be recognized. Because remember, there has been relentless artillery fire since February. Ukraine has accused Russia of forcibly relocating thousands of civilians from Mariupol, and the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine has also said 40,000 had been moved from Ukraine's Mariupol to Russian-held territory without any coordination with Kyiv. According to media reports, there are no undamaged buildings now in Mariupol, about 3,500 people killed, thousands injured. Ukraine's president had accused Russian forces of deliberately targeting civilians in the city, including by bombing an art school on Sunday, where hundreds of women, children, elderly were taking shelter. So remember, with 33 days and relentless shelling, there have been many cities that cannot now even be recognized. So therefore, Ukraine, as and when the war gets over, will have a massive rebuilding exercise that will have to prepare for itself. Look at how the cities looked earlier and what Ukraine looks right now. So it is important to understand why is Vladimir Putin, the Russian premier, obsessed with Mariupol. Mariupol, remember, is also the gateway to the Sea of Azov, which means controlling Mariupol is actually equal to domination over the Sea of Azov. It is just 50 kilometers from the Russian border and also importantly just 85 kilometers from the Russian-held Donetsk and Luhansk, where the Russian forces hope they will have support to beat Ukraine. Importantly, Putin will want Ukraine to surrender Mariupol eventually, and that will, of course, have an edge for Putin and extend his dominance from Crimea. Now, the port city already for days has seen brutal assault, war crimes that are taking place. It is already have areas in unrecognizable conditions, and therefore, that is why Putin hopes his military might will give an edge in Mariupol. Let's go across now to our colleague Rajesh Pawar on the ground, because he's been telling us constantly and was in Mariupol as well just about a few days ago. Now, while you were reporting from Mariupol, Rajesh, there was shelling, artillery fire, and the situation definitely, as we understood, was worse. But with this, do you think Putin clearly knows if Mariupol comes under his absolute control, it will make way easy for him from the separatist regions and then to go towards Kyiv?
Okay, Pooja, I'm sorry, there's too much of wind here. If you don't hear me very properly, I'm trying to hold the microphone.
We can hear. Go ahead, Rajesh. It's all clear.
Yeah. See, Mariupol, as you said, is a very important port on Sea of Azov. Also, remember the other coast of Sea of Azov, which is on the eastern side, is Russian territory of Russian Federation. And Mariupol is, besides being a very important port on the Sea of Azov, is also very important because it's the second biggest city of Donetsk Republic, now an independent republic. It is the second biggest city of that oblast. And that is why it is so important for them to hold it, because this was under the Ukrainian control even in 2014, when almost 30 to 40% of oblast came under the control of Russian-backed militants. So for them, it is not just an important commercial center or an important port. It's also an important issue, a prestige issue for Russia and for Donetsk Republic to have this town under their control. Also, let me tell you, the 80% population in this town was of Russian origin, spoke Russian language, and Azov Battalion, which Russia has been calling again and again as a neo-Nazi group, holds sway in this town. And it was reported that they were even holding civilians at gunpoint, not letting them evacuate. This should also be known to people now. And that is one reason that they bombarded a lot of areas in the city. And how many civilians have actually died is not yet confirmed from any sources. Over to you, Pooja.
But can we say right now, from your assessment till now, because you've been traveling to different cities all these days, that Mariupol is the worst hit, or do you think Kharkiv is also close to that?
Look, Mariupol is a much smaller population center compared to Kharkiv. Kharkiv is the second biggest city of Ukraine, and Mariupol comes maybe in fifth or sixth largest. So it just had about 4.5 lakh people. So compared to Kharkiv, Mariupol is very, very small. But yes, this city was under siege for almost 2 weeks. No gas, no electricity, no water, no supplies allowed inside the city. So the suffering of people in Mariupol was certainly much worse than in Kharkiv or in Sumy or any other worst hit, badly hit cities
Women,
of Ukraine.
children, and people in Mariupol.
Yes. So it's, of course, when there's a war and when there's a tragedy, it's the elderly, it's the children, women who suffer the most. And they did suffer in this war there as well. And Mariupol really was a humanitarian catastrophe in true sense, irrespective of the politics irrespective of the politics of both the sides. It was a humanitarian catastrophe, undoubtedly. Pooja.
All right.
People behind everybody, comes and tries to...
only if you're safe. Yes. Only if you're comfortable, Rajesh, while talking.
I can show you around.
Yes, please do.
Look, do you see these three girls who are going? They were very kind and smiling and waving and nice, but generally it is not the case. I also want to show you this thing. This is the statue of Bogdan in Sofia Square. Look how they're covering it up. This is to protect it in case of bombardment of this area. Look, the whole statue has been covered up, and look how they covered it up.
Can you tell us more about this statue? Why is it of so much significance that they've even covered it, Rajesh?
This is a statue of Bogdan. It was built in 1888, one of the oldest statues in the city of Kyiv, in a very prominent square called Sofia Square of Kyiv city. And this statue probably is a cultural heritage of this city, and they want to make sure that in case of any airstrike,
Yes.
missile strike or bombardment of this area, this statue is not damaged. Look, everything has been covered. They put mud around it, and now this barrier, and people are still working on it right now to make sure it's covered from all directions.
Rajesh, why do you think people have suddenly got so anxious, even of reporters? Why are they questioning? We also had Gaurav tell us a similar situation in Kyiv, and they must be used to reporters around them for a month now. Why this mood has suddenly changed, Rajesh?
Look, see, this is a city which is under attack.
Yes.
There have been reports of Russian army build-up around the city of Kyiv now for almost 4 weeks. So people are on the edge. People are very nervous. People don't want any Russian agent here who can photograph important areas or can pass real-time information to Russian forces which are amassed outside the city, on the city limits. They're just 10 kilometers away. So everybody's very careful. Everybody thinks they have a role to play in this. They have to make sure that the secrecy of these sites or to report anything of importance to the military. Every citizen thinks their duty right now in these times of war, and that's the reason they are always on the edge, very nervous and suspicious of anybody taking out a camera or trying to record anything.
So there's understandable anxiety among people as to what sort of information going out. Of course, remember 33 days on. Rajesh, your safety is of prime importance to us. Ensure that you're safe at all times, and thank you for getting us constantly this ground report and the situation from Kyiv, where still Ukraine says they're trying to hold fort for as long as possible. Negotiations in Turkey continue. Rajesh Pawar with all the latest. Rajesh, thank you very much for now. Meanwhile, India Today continues to bring you voices straight from the ground zero. No secondary source. These are reporters on the ground of India Today. We also then spoke to human rights lawyer Alexandra. Listen in to what they had to say, and specifically Alexandra is stating about the human rights and the war crimes that are taking place in Ukraine. Right, let me quickly cut across to Alexandra Matvichuk, who's joining us to give us an insight into where this war is headed on 33rd day. Alexandra, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate your time. We know that it's day 33, and in fact, Russia has upped its offensive. We heard that 5 bombs was just reported in the capital city of Kiev, and many of the outskirt areas, like some of the villages which were so far low-lying, also now come under Russian fire. How do you see this war panning out after a month-long and counting? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, but I lost connection. Please repeat your question.
Alexandra, 33 days and counting. We're seeing this war, continuing unabated. Russia shows no signs of de-escalation. Do you have hope to sustain your defense, and for how long?
We will resist. We will resist so long as will be needed. And Ukraine will win sooner or later. But for sure, we will pay an enormous price for our freedom.
Well, unfortunately, Alexandra, Ukraine has paid an enormous price. We're seeing millions of people who are displaced, who have fled the country, thousands of them who have died in this war. At a time like this, Zelensky says that Western nations lack the courage. You all are desperately requesting for fighter jets and tanks. Do you believe that you will have support in the days to come?
I think that Western democracies have no choice. They have to close the sky on Ukraine or later on their own sky, because Putin will not stop in Ukraine. Putin's officials told publicly that Ukraine is only intermediate goal. That's why we say always that it's a battle between autocracy and values for free world. But I hope that it will happen more soon, because we want to be a witness of our victory. And now people in Ukraine are dying because of lack of courage of Western democracies.
Well, you say there's lack of courage. That's what your president has said as well. At a time like this, when you feel like you've been brought down to your knees, your spirit and your courage must be lauded. But what we see of Russia is that they're using really sophisticated arms and ammunition. The kind of missiles that they're using, unmatched. Do you believe you'll be able to stand in the face of those hostilities? How are you really coping with that kind of sophisticated ammunition coming from Russia?
Look, but history proves us that people are much more powerful than any army in the world. And now in Ukraine, Putin are fighting not only with Ukrainian army, Putin are fighting with the whole Ukrainian people. And we have a huge wave of solidarity. People join to army, people join to territorial defense, people join to volunteers groups to provide medical care, logistic issue, evacuation, defense supplies, etc. Putin will never win from ordinary people. Ordinary people have much more power than they even expected.
Alexandra, thank you very much for joining us. I do know that your city, that's where you are currently joining us from, capital city of Kiev, is currently under attack. We see several areas on the outskirts that already has come under fire, and forces there trying to push themselves into the city. Let's see how this pans out. We're all heart going out to those civilians who really have been caught in this crossfire. Thank you very much for joining us.
Now remember, India Today is the only channel reporting from Ukraine to Russia so that you get both sides of the story. And our foreign affairs editor Geeta Mohan is the only Indian journalist in the border area of Donetsk. Why is Donetsk so important for Ukraine and Russia? Watch this exclusive ground report.
We are right here in the Donetsk city, and we can hear sounds of explosion. There you hear it. Sounds of explosion that's taking place not so far away from here, but in the outskirts. In some time from now, we will be reporting from there, but certainly a worry for people, most of them inside. If you see the city, if Satya can show you, hardly any people around, no people, and the fact that there are massive explosions here. President Putin had said that the military operations over here will intensify. And from the day we arrived here, we certainly hear more sounds of explosion. With British journalist Satya Rautre in Donetsk, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Remember, it's 33 days already, and Ukraine is not just fighting Russia, it's fighting a two-front war. What does that mean? One with the Russian invasion forces, and the other side is the Russian-backed rebels in Donetsk. Those side call themselves the Donetsk People's Republic. It's a separatist region and is pitted against Ukrainian rule. Here's a report by Geeta Mohan to help you understand what exactly is the ground status in Donetsk. Ukraine is fighting a two-front war, one with Russian invasion forces and the other with Russian-backed rebels of Donetsk, who call themselves the Donetsk People's Republic, a separatist region which is pitted against the Ukraine rule. As Ukrainians battle it out against Russian aggression, images from southeastern Ukraine tell a different story. India Today visited this rebel stronghold of Donetsk to find strong support for Russian President Vladimir Putin and his invasion. In Donetsk, most cars were seen with pro-Russia Z signs. The anti-Ukrainian sign is a call for independence from Ukraine.
Z denotes independence. Russia and the breakaway factions of Donbas region, Donetsk, what they call Donetsk People's Republic, DPR, are together fighting the Ukrainians. And the two signs that they use are signs that Ukraine also recognizes distinctly as being anti-Ukraine, which is V for victory and Z for independence. In Donetsk, you will not see a lot of V signs, you'll see Z. Why? Because the call is for independence. So a lot of cars over here that you see have the Z sign, only saying that they do not want to remain with Ukraine, they want independence.
Russian supporters in downtown Donetsk were also seen paying homage to the lives lost in the Tochka-U missile attack, carried out by the Ukrainians on 14th March. More than 20 people were allegedly killed in the attack, which left marks of shelling on residential buildings.
This is the building that got hit, and I'll show you. This is where it landed. 20 people were killed. That's the memory. That's the memory of the people whose lives were lost. And the entire building over here, you can see the marks of shelling. If you see, there are marks of shelling everywhere in the building.
Lately, it's noted that the attacks are even more frequent than before. I talked with some military personnel, and it's totally speculative what I'm going to say. But one possible explanation is that Ukrainian troops, which are stationed in Donetsk, or near Donetsk right now, it's possibly more than 50,000 of them. So it's a huge troop, and possibly they are sending the sort of a message.
The Moscow-backed separatists have ruled the Donbas region for 8 years now. Russia is now using them as tools to gain upper hand in the invasion war.
Will there be a ceasefire? Will there be an end to war? Can there be negotiations where both sides' demands are met and kept? We'll be reporting on that. With which journalist Satya Rautre in Donetsk, Itamar, Printed.
Now, interestingly, Russia has been honoring wounded soldiers it says have fought very courageously. This in an operation it maintains is necessary and is on track. The Ministry of Defense says many more Ukrainian military facilities have now been completely flattened. Here's more of how Russia is interacting with its soldiers.